You're talking about the clientele, people that come to races. Now, mostly,
I want to know what you did while you were the one being in the catering. Tell me the story about, borrowing and betting.
In the first place, to work there, everybody has to. It was called the BC, British Columbia, Canada Racing Commission. You were stamped here to get in the door.
You were a special employee.
Yes, but I say you're an employee.
Yeah. So you got to get special information. You would overhear special stuff about horses, huh?
So I would be maybe on the way to get in there. There'd be more than one person that had their own ideas of what would be the best to bet on. So they would hand you this sheet, say 6x8 sheet with certain selections. One of them might have been called Shorty Selections. Okay, now I get inside. I'm already stamped. So I can go up and make some bets. And I pick out what I think is going to be a winner of the Shorty Selections. And maybe I am. And if I am, I've got other people sort of hovering around me wanting to know what else is on that Shorty Selection. And these are several races that are going to be run on this day. Maybe there's going to be 7 races. So they say, what have you got in number 6? Or what is the ultimate race? What have you got in that one on this sheet?
And then they would borrow money from you?
Well, this, of course, because this is...
Or you would go place the bets with your money, is what you're saying?
Yes, because...
And then they would owe you the money?
Because I've got the money.
Like a bookie would, sort
yes.
of? Okay.
And if I'm lucky, okay, then it wins. And we split the difference.
And if they lose, you're not out the money because it was their loan anyway.
Originally, I guess it was my money. I'd have some money to start with.
You started out...
Because I've got to buy this thing here. I'm talking about this sheet that he's going to sell to me. He's going to sell...
But you also
You
got
are
tips.
the individual person selling.
Okay.
You are selling a sheet to me with names on it. But for 7 races, you are going to sell that to me. And your name is Shorty. Okay. Now, I look at what you gave me, and I think, well, that's pretty good. I'm going to bet on that one. I'm going to bet on number 6. And if I'm lucky... And it turns out you are right. We're going to make some money. There's no other way. And that is horse racing.
And you never had a problem with people paying you? They always paid you. They always paid what they owed you, huh?
Of course, because it comes up maybe on a big bulletin board. Maybe after the race is run, they can still go back to that.
Okay. So that's a fascinating story.
Well, that's horse racing.
Whoa, now we know how it works.
Sure.
Oh, and sometimes now you worked as a waitress and you were in an exclusive area and you would try to open your ears and really listen for tips, huh?
I worked in what you call a grandstand. Okay, the kitchen, as far as I remember, was on the bottom floor. And it was a grandstand thing because the people that had attended, they wanted to see the race. It was a point of vision.
Right. And you would serve them food and they would talk and you would hear them. You couldn't, it wasn't like you were talking, so you would listen.
I was listening, and it wouldn't do me any good unless they would talk. We would talk about things that were in the future that were coming. You see, we were talking about the present time. of people sitting in a grandstand. This is the present time.
Right.
And if people aren't very careful about what they're doing, they would stupidly bet on too many wrong choices. Because it would be only after the race is run, there may be a big bulletin put up of what the results were. You understand?
Right.
If you know about horse racing,
I do. It's where they put the odds on the board and how much you win and everything.
That's right. And I think it's a very fascinating hobby. And not only that...
How much money? You make quite a lot of money at it. You don't want to tell how much, but you make quite a bit.
It could depend. You're more or less depending on somebody else's brains that preclude what you think. They thought this thing out, and maybe they made their own sheet. There are several people that are going to be selling these things, not one, of their selections. It's called selections.
Right, but you were talking earlier about how you would overhear tips.
Over what?
You would overhear tips.
Well, I might hear two people that are supposedly talking quietly and at a reserved table somewhere about what? And this is in their own minds, that their selections are. And maybe they're right, and maybe they're not. It's a very kind of a risky business.
But you would know that they were good customers and they had good tips or not.
Well, they might...
You were smart enough to know, huh?
They were smart enough to buy somebody else's brains on these tips.
Did they know that you were a bookie, that you could place bets for them?
Some did. I worked with a girl, and her name was Ann. And she was the kind of a gal that loved to gamble. Okay. But her husband was against her gambling. So, very sneakily, she always had some money somewhere, and she'd give it to me to make the bets.
Okay.
And sometimes she was lucky. And if she was lucky, she might give me a little money because I was the runner back and forth.
And you had the tips. You knew what horses were going to win.
I had a selection of somebody's. A selection.
But you knew that was a good selection, is what you're saying.
I didn't know. I presumed it was.
And you won quite a bit, right?
Sometimes. It's a gamble. It's racing. It's a gamble.
Okay.
Sometimes you're going to win.
Okay, well, I learned a lot today. This is a great video.
Sometimes you're going to win, sometimes you're not.
Now, let's remind everybody what year this was. This was back in 1930.
It was in the 30s. It was Depression years.
Would you say it was the 1928?
I say it was much younger than that. I think I was I was very young. I think I was about 19 or 20 years old.
And that's when you bought a 2-acre property
yes,
that you later subdivided.
That's right. And that's when I became interested not in gambling, but in gardening.
That's another video coming up next. We'll sign off, Peggy, with a big smile and a wave. Let's see that beautiful smile. Say bye, everybody.
Thank you. Goodbye, everybody. And anybody can get in that kind of a business if you want to.